Hey everybody, what is up? This is Kirsten here, and you are watching or listening to A Better Way with Kirsten Kimura podcast. If you're watching this podcast on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and also share this channel with other people. If you're listening to this podcast through Spotify or Apple Podcast, I would be very grateful if you could leave me a 5-star rating and review, and also share this podcast with anybody else who you think might benefit from it. So this would be absolutely wonderful because it helps the channel and the podcast to grow, and more people will find out about it and hopefully get some help through this podcast. What we're going to talk about today is this idea of self-compassion and why it's important. And also, there are two kinds of self-compassion that you may not have been aware of. A lot of people are aware of that soft, gentle, very caring type of self-compassion, which of course is important, but there's also another type of self-compassion. And if you want to look up more research on this topic, you can look up Kristen Neff. She has talked about it. The kind and soft and gentle side of self-compassion is something that we, of course, know very well. It doesn't mean that we practice it very much. We just know that it does exist. But she talks also about how there's this other type of self-compassion, which is more fierce kind. So she talks about it as fierce self-compassion. So I wanted to talk about these two sides of compassion today and focus a little bit more, well, focus on both, but also kind of highlight a little bit more the second one, which is something that a lot of people are not aware of or don't really often think about. But I think that if you are a more sensitive person and if you tend to be more like a people pleaser, you're having hard time setting boundaries, then this second part of it, like the second side, the fierce kind of self-compassion, is actually very important for you to understand and start applying this in your life too, because this is actually a form of self-care. Now, let's talk about the first kind of self-compassion first. And like I said, this is the more gentle and caring and loving. And this is the type of self-compassion that we usually think about when we think about this word. Okay, self-compassion, what does that mean? You know, saying nice things to myself, being more satisfied with what I have accomplished, giving myself credit, giving myself grace, right? So we know this. Now, the other things that we are not very good at doing these things, we're just like, oh yeah, there's this thing. You're supposed to love yourself somehow. I don't know how exactly to do that. I don't care because I'm like a piece of crap anyway. I can never get anything done. I'm not good enough. I've always heard that I'm not good enough. Nobody realizes or nobody acknowledges my accomplishments. So there's no room for me, like for this self-compassion. This is what a lot of people think. So many women think like this. They are very, very hard on themselves, and they're doing so many things for, especially for other people, right? But also sometimes, for themselves, they are doing the things, they are accomplishing, they're having great achievements, but they don't see it. They still push themselves harder and harder and harder without ever taking a moment and saying, hey, it's okay to rest now. It's okay to take some time off. I'm gonna just put my feet up right now. I just feel like I need some rest. I need some recovery time. So we don't do that very much. And I think it's a little bit different culturally, but I feel like here in the States, it's very much like going fast, going hard, achieving all the time. And it's almost like rest is for weak people. We don't do that. Being kind to yourself is seen as, well, then you're going to stop growing. Then you're going to stop getting better. This is how we kind of think. But it really isn't true. And I read this really good quote the other day on social media. It said something like, if if self-hate worked so well, then we wouldn't have any problems, right? All the problems would be solved. And I think it's so right, because a lot of times we approach things with like this hardness, this like self-hate almost, right? I have to do more. We still keep telling ourselves these stories that I'm not good enough. I'm not allowed to rest. But it hasn't made anything better. It actually creates a lot more pressure. Now, how do you use that gentle, nice, kind, um, beautiful self-compassion? Well, you can use it exactly when you're noticing, I am really tired, right? And then start thinking, okay, instead of saying, I didn't get anything done, this is how our brains often automatically go, I didn't do enough today. Instead of that, start looking at actually, what did you do? And a lot of times you find that I did a lot of great things today. I finished this work task. I prepared myself a nice lunch. I did do my workouts. I did take care of my kids. I drove them to, places that needed to go. I did. And sometimes there's just two things, but that's okay too. So I want you to start noticing that and tell yourself, hey, it's good. It's okay to rest. I don't have to earn my rest, right? I can rest. Everything's good. I deserve to rest and feel better about myself. I don't have to push so hard all the time. Also, notice your achievements, what you have already accomplished, how far you have come. So we are really good at forgetting about this stuff too, right? So we're only seeing how much still we have to go instead of acknowledging how far we have come. And of course, this is something that I see in my work often with weight loss, fat loss. Let's say somebody has lost 13 pounds, but they wanted to lose 20 and they still have that 7 to go and they're thinking so hard about it. And instead of looking back how far you have already come, how consistently you have been working on your goals, how much hard work you have put in, instead of focusing that, we are still focusing how much I have not done. And like I say, it's in almost every single episode that when I do, where I talk more about these things, I often talk to myself. I've told you that several times because I'm learning with you. I'm learning with you, and I've done the same thing. Like, when you start actually thinking about, okay, I have actually come pretty far, live in a different country, have a couple of degrees. I just, like, oh yeah, there is a lot of stuff, but it wasn't something that I thought about like automatically. It actually took some mental work to start seeing I have done stuff. Why am I being hard? Why am I being so freaking hard on myself? Why do I not give myself the self compassion and saying, hey, this is pretty damn awesome, right? You're doing great. And these are just my examples. Think about yours. Don't compare them to mine or anybody else's. Don't do that because this is not fair. People are so different. We have so different lives, and so different paths. So see how far you have come, and please give yourself some credit and allow yourself to rest too. This is something that I want to say. People are really bad at resting. People feel like they have to be on the go all the time, and you don't have to. You are allowed to rest. Now, this is the side of this gentle, kind, softer self-compassion. But there's also this other kind, and sometimes it can be difficult. Like, what do I need? Which one do I need? But let me give you some examples of that other kind of self-compassion, which, like I said, Kristen Neff, she calls it the fierce self-compassion. So this is oftentimes expressed in ways that you don't want to do something in the moment because it feels uncomfortable, but you do it because you know that this is actually good for you, right? So let's talk about some mental or emotional things that would fall into this category where you can express your fear self-compassion. So let's say that you are a person who is a people pleaser, right? And this is a learned behavior. Nobody was born with it, but life circumstances and situations shaped us this way. They taught us to become people pleasers because we thought that this is a safe thing to do, right? So if we don't hurt others with our words or with our actions, then we can actually protect ourselves, right? And it has become this mechanism that I'm going to go hiding. I'm going to go do what others do so that I cannot like potentially get hurt myself, right? So actually all you do is protect yourself. Now, do you actually protect yourself and do you actually protect the other person if you are people pleasing? No, you actually don't, right? You are avoiding the true, real emotions. You're avoiding expressing what you actually want or don't want. And if you remember the episode that I did recently where I talked about this woman who we had like a nice combination when we worked on her nutrition, but also her anxiety and insomnia. So this was one of the things that she told me. She said, yeah, I've been starting to stand up for myself. I've been saying things, if I don't like them, if they don't work for me, I've been letting people know and I'm feeling so much better. And this is a really good example of fierce self-compassion, right? You are standing up for yourself. And even though in the moment it does not feel good at all, you're like, oh my goodness, it feels so awful that I had to set that boundary. Eventually, it actually will be very beneficial. And I've experienced it many times, when you start practicing it, it's like I told somebody that this doesn't work for me versus like before, I would have been like, yeah, sure, let's do it. That's totally fine. Now, when you set that boundary, it's really uncomfortable at first, because you feel like you did something wrong. It's almost like you feel guilty, although there's absolutely zero to be guilty about. But then you just have to be with this feeling. Okay, this is what growth feels like. Yeah, fucking hard. So uncomfortable. But this actually is self-compassion, because the goal here is that I want to feel aligned with myself. I want to feel good. And this is why I set this boundary. Okay, so this could be one of the examples. So other things could be if you have people in your life who you are in contact with, and they're just like maybe draining your energy or always wanting something, and you just don't feel like this is a good fit, or this is this is a good use of your energy. Same thing. Standing up for yourself and for your rights is a form of self-compassion, the more fierce kind of self-compassion. And I know that so many women struggle with it. Not everybody, and some of us are really good at setting boundaries and saying, "Hey, this is not for me. I'm not going to do this. Bye." Or even just like, "No, no" is a full sentence. Okay, done. Very good. So this is maybe not for you, but for those of us who are a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more tend to be like anxious and worried and overthinking and over planning and just like super hyper aware of everything around them and people's reactions and people's emotions. If you're that kind of person, then I think this fierce self-compassion will be a very, very good thing for you to practice. And you notice how you start becoming stronger internally. You start feeling that this is more like me. This is how I'm supposed to be, right? I'm not supposed to be somebody who's like pushed over, right, by others' wishes and opinions if they don't work for me. So this is just one example of that. But I also want to bring here some nutrition and training kind of sides to this, how the fierce self-compassion can work here as well. So sometimes you just don't want to work out. Sometimes you just don't want to make your own food and weigh and measure and track it. And then it could be so much easier to just say, I'm gonna stay on the couch. I'm not gonna go work out today. Okay, so now in this situation, you gotta realize, okay, what is going on? Do I need actual rest? And this is where I'm gonna use this softer self-compassion and say, okay, I'm really tired today. I know that I'm probably gonna feel achier and more in pain and worse if I do the workout because my energy is super low. Then you're gonna use the kind soft self-compassion. Okay, today is not really, it's just not that day. And I'm tired and rest serves me better. Okay. But then on the other hand, this can't, like, you also have to have discipline, right? To know that if you make that decision to go and do that workout right now, because you're actually not that tired, you just like don't feel like it, right? So you go and do it anyway. And this was now actually standing up for yourself and putting in some work towards better future, right? The same thing with food. You might be like, I don't have anything ready. I'm gonna go and get some takeout. Although I could take that chicken out and defrost some vegetables. I could do that, but what am I gonna do? Now, if you choose to still make that food at home, you're gonna feel better for it, right? You're gonna feel better because we know that home cooked meals just make you feel better than meals that you eat out. This is like 90% of the time, this is the case, right? Plus you save money, plus you did the healthy thing, plus if you're tracking macros, you're able to track everything accurately. You're not like, yeah, I guess maybe these were the macros that I had. No, you actually know exactly what you had. That's why when you're tracking macros, eating out is difficult and eating at home is better because you're taking less calories, you know exactly what you put into it. Okay, so now let's say you're just like, I just really don't feel like making that food, but I'm gonna be self-compassionate with myself in a way that serves me in the future, right? So now if I choose to make that meal at home, I actually did something to improve my future self, right? It's like an investment. I did it, and this is self-care. This is self-compassion, right? But on the other hand, let's say that you are just like, I don't know, you're maybe sick. Let's say that you're sick. You just cannot make yourself food, or you're just feeling very weak. Then your self-compassion might be like, okay, I don't know, my mom brought me some chicken soup or something, right? I don't, I'm just gonna eat that. Or I had to get a takeout because I literally had no energy. I had like high fever and I had to eat something. This is fine then. So the idea here is that you use the right type of self-compassion and learn to understand which one is appropriate in each situation, right? Do I need to be kind and gentle with myself? Or do I actually have to step up and be a little bit more tough? Be like, okay, let's get shit done. Because that's also self-compassion. It's self-compassion isn't always so warm and cozy and cuddly and pleasant. It's just isn't. So if you want to get stuff done, your self-compassion may be more of that fierce kind, where it's a little bit uncomfortable in the moment, but serves you in the future. Okay, so I hope that this made sense to you. Let me know what you're thinking. Thank you so much for being here today, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.